And we take the material out of the pit here. We have a pump, and the cake falls in here where we can weigh it with a beam scale. And we have starter switch gear here for the electrical. And here we have a 14-inch tank, a 14-foot tank, where we collect the press liquor, and that is the liquid fraction. And we'll get this going now. There's the motor and gearbox. Yes, we're now operating. This is the pit. That's recirculated liquid going back in. We're operating with zero pressure in the inlet hopper, full recirculation. Also, we have no weights in this container right here, so our pressure is minimal, and the cake comes out a little bit wetter. We have a modification to this press where we use some rings which could get even drier press cake. The cake looks like this. There's some hair and grain. I can squeeze moisture out, I think. This is probably, we're guessing, 72% moisture. It gets lower with more with a weight hanging on this lever arm. This is the liquid coming out from the press. We use this tank to measure the increase in depth, and we know, I think it's 96 gallons per inch, and so we've gotten good measurement of capacity of the press. Okay, here you can see that we have zero pressure at the inlet of the press. We have an overflow system. The gearbox is a hollow shaft gearbox. There you can see the screw rotating. We use double seals. That green container has double seals. And there's the gearbox. It has a 2.6 service life with a 7.5 horsepower motor. One of the future production runs, we will probably reduce the size of this gearbox simply because the service factor is more than needed. It was picked that way because we thought we might need to go to 10 or even 15 horsepower. As it turns out, we generally draw 5 horsepower or less. It is held together with tie rods. All of the gray metal that you see is stainless steel. So this is a completely stainless steel unit. It does not. It must be mounted firmly to its frame. With manure, you wouldn't have a chance of jamming the press, but if you dropped a wrench in there and it wanted to jam, the press could damage itself, could twist if it's not mounted to a framework. Let's do that. Buenos días, estamos en una finca de ganado de porcino donde estamos haciendo prueba con una prensa Vincent. La posta está saliendo aquí y se ve saliendo. Tenemos un peso mínimo en la máquina en este momento. Está vacío. Se le ponen estos pesos que están aquí, pero este está funcionando sin peso al momento y también está trabajando sin presión. Es decir, aquí se ve que estamos sin ninguna presión. Hay recirculación a través de la T, y la recirculación viene por esta tubería aquí y lo echamos otra vez al pozo. Se ve cayendo ahí la bosta. Aquí normalmente están un poquito pesado. Hoy creo que tenemos 5% de sólidos. Esta instalación es de prueba por la Universidad de Wisconsin. Estamos cerca de Madison, Wisconsin, trabajando con la empresa A.O. Smith Harvester, nuestro distribuidor en Norteamérica. Y aquí es un tanque de 14 pies de diámetro y han hecho muchas pruebas con varios pesos, con varias presiones. Y al subir una pulgada es 96 galones de líquido que están saliendo. No hay una buena medida de la entrada, pero sabemos cuánto líquido sale. Este es el control eléctrico y sabemos el peso del material firme que está saliendo. Aquí ven la salida del material. As I mentioned, this program is being worked out with the A.O. Smith Harvester. These are the feed storage silos that are used. And I'm going to walk around, and what I have here is the farrowing house. Okay, we're inside the farrowing house, and these are the pens. Mama pig and her babies. And if I go out the door, you can see the rest of this farrowing house. This farm has 6,500 pigs, and they sell about 15,000 a year. They have 700 acres where they grow corn, and to which they apply the manure. We're now in a finishing barn. These are pigs that grow here about 5 months. They separate the male pigs from the female pigs during this grow out period because there's an advantage in food consumption. The females get a different ration of food than the males. Okay, I don't have any light in here, but this is a gestation barn. The gestation period is about 115 days. These pigs stay here for that period, and then they go over to the farrowing barn. The cages are made out of rebar, concrete reinforcing bar. Let's see if I get a close-up of that bar. And this farm has several barns like this. Oh, the feeding. I'm not sure if I can catch any of the feeding devices. I don't see them here. Here we have a dead pig. The big ones like this are carried away to a dog food factory. The small dead pigs are incinerated. And further down here we have the slurry store tanks. These tanks hold the manure which is applied to the ground in the fall after the crops are harvested, and in the spring when the ground thaws out. Yes, these are the slurry store tanks for manure. One of the purposes of the press is to keep all this material. This is press cake from the Vincent Press. It is a compost pile. The fresh material was just from the test we just ran, and I'll dig down here and get some fresher some of the composting material. This is what it looks like. You can see the vapor coming off, and it composts and heats up. And by keeping all this material out of the tank, there's less problem filling the tank with solids or a manure pond with solids. Here we are in another finishing or growing barn with the female pigs separated from the male pigs. This finishing barn has the lights on, so you can probably see a lot better what these pigs look like. There's a brown one. I saw a black one over here too. feeding system. Yes, it's raining, and this is a last shot of the press. As you saw it operating earlier, it was getting out, putting out press cake moisture, about 72% moisture, with the weights and higher inlet pressure results of 67 and 68% moisture have been achieved. The flow through the press is in the range of 50 to 80 gallons per minute, depending on the solids content and on the inlet pressure. The pounds of dry material coming out of the press per minute, that is the press cake that comes out of here, seems to run 10, maybe 15 pounds per minute. Second it's the weekend, and so there's no one here. This is the engineering office, engineering library, and my office, administration, sales, marketing are all in this trailer. And this is the more or less storage end of the factory, and machine shop is in this part of the building, and assembly is in the far area back here. I've walked into the storage area of the factory, and two things are evident. The place is extremely neat. That's because we have 700 visitors coming to Tampa next week for the Citrus Short Course. These presses are our competitors, and they're in here for summer overhaul. They were supposed to be torn down last week, so I know we're running behind schedule. This is a test area. For example, right here is a KP10 press. That's the one you saw earlier in this tape on use in manure. Here is a CP6 press. It has the air cylinders. You can notice the screen is a profile bar screen, whereas we use on pig manure we would use profile bar. Here's what the inlet hopper looks like. There's a little press with a spring actuator on it, and here's another press. There's the inlet hopper where we use a counterweight arm actuator. Over here, this was the KP10. Here is a very old laboratory press. It has a rotating cone option. That is, this press has a screen, and with the discharge we can actually rotate the cone. It also, there's the inlet hopper, has dual drives, so we can do a variety of simulations with this machine. Here in front of me is another CP press. Notice this very unusual screw configuration. We use a variety of screw configurations. These are rotors for pulp fluidizers that chop up blocks of frozen pulp that are blended into other juices. And here we have a variety of things I saw. Oh, here's a shredder that is supposed to be going down to Chile very soon. And here's another, looks like a CP6 press. But I was coming back here because here we have the press destined for Costa Rica. It'll be one of these. This press has a perforated screen in it. I don't think we can see that, but we need to change that out and put in the profile bar screen. But it is one of these units that is going to be used on pig manure in Costa Rica. This is the fabricating area of the shop. As I mentioned, everything's been obviously cleaned up for the visitors coming to the citrus reunion. But here is a static screen. Vincent makes these as accessories to go with our presses from time to time. And replacement parts for competitor screw presses. Here we have some completed repair work. These are citrus presses, again our main competitors. And they've gone out of business, so we repair their old machines. We have a very large lathe, which we can do that sort of work. Over here is a bench in which we are welding up a screw, and over here is a flight forming machine that makes the flights for these screws. In this lathe we have a fairly large screw being built. It's far enough along where it's being turned in the lathe. Right here I have part of the shaft for an immense screw, and spinning around I saw the drive end of that same screw. This steel is oh, you can see my hand. This is it'll have 300 horsepower, so we make some very powerful presses. We have a press brake and shear for sheet metal work. Most of the metal you see is stainless steel. Those hoops are stainless steel. There's the assembly area, but over here we have our machine shop, and we're expecting a big storm this weekend, so everything is covered with plastic. The roof in the machine shop is to be repaired in next year's budget. But we have mills and lathes and the usual machine shop tools. Here is a rather old screw. It belongs to a press at Cargill. It's in for overhaul for the summer. And there I see a motor gearbox drive for a press. Screens from some used press must be in here for repair. We're doing a lot of summer repair work. Here's this, well, that's a table. Right out here, these are motor mounts for and including a gearbox. I can see these same part right here on these presses. We have there's a pair of almost completed citrus presses here, 1 and 2. Another one being started here. Another one here. This press is a 16-inch press. It's for going to Venezuela. It's for a paper mill. Motor, gearbox, coupling, bearing, inlet hopper. Here's the screw and the discharge, and an air cylinder to actuate the discharge cone. Here's a pan for a larger press, collection pan. Over here I see a screen. I'll go over where we can look at these. There's a screen for a press. This is backup reinforcing that you see right here. A fine mesh screen, we'll go over that. In this area we use the profile bar construction that we use also in pig manure. This device is a supercharger, twin screw supercharger, motor, gearbox, and then we have twin screws, may be able to see them, not very well, going through to force material that would fall in here into a press. Maybe at this end we can see the, yes, you can see the twin screw arrangement. And I have another one of those over here. These are for the larger presses. Here's another press. We have almost 50 presses in our rental fleet, and so that's why you see a lot of Vincent presses in this sort of state. But you notice a difference in the screw configuration in this particular 6-inch press. The one going to Costa Rica is a 6-inch press also. And I saw one other press over here. This one's a 10-inch. And motor gearbox, similar arrangement to what's going to Costa Rica, with a profile bar screen, discharge, and air cylinders to actuate the discharge cone. Here's what the discharge area looks like.